Hey guys, I'm Ryan,
And I'm Alex.
and this is Between Shelf and Screen.
Whoop whoop.
Not new sound effects. We don't have our soundboard yet.
You're
Okay,
right.
we can't be doing this yet.
Wait, what sound do you think this is? Oh.
That sounded like from the Goofy. Like you were trying to do a Goofy
Oh.
impression.
No, it's the pufferfish eating a carrot.
No, it's not. That
Yes,
was
it is.
so bad.
Oh.
No, you sucked at that.
Hold up.
That was not good.
That was good.
It
Are
was
you kidding me?
objectively bad.
Oh.
You don't sound anything like
Hold on.
him. I'm being serious. Anyone could tell you.
No.
Whoever said that was good is just wrong. No, you're not doing it right. You don't.
Oh.
Okay, that's enough.
Yeah, that's enough of that. Sorry.
This has nothing to do with the book that we're reading today, which is in fact Piranesi.
Piranesi.
Or Piranesi.
That's stupid.
I'm gonna say Piranesi because I don't care if I'm wrong.
It just flows.
It sounds clean. Yeah, better.
Flows better.
So you may be thinking, based off of what we normally do, we read a book that has an adaptation and then we compare it to the adaptation next week. But this does not have an adaptation. So, Alex, what are we actually doing?
We're going to talk about this book, rate it first,
Yes.
and then after that, we're gonna be like, hey, this is how it should be adapted. We'll talk about like all the different actors that we think should be in it.
Yeah.
And just like how like certain scenes that would be cool and how like adaptable we think it is.
Right. What
Just
we
in
want to
general.
see on the screens, and we're gonna be trying something new.
Because
try
we're
it out next week.
Yeah, we
I
should.
mean,
Well, I want to explain to them we're in a reading slump. Like we really don't want to read Emma.
No, I disagree with that statement. That might be how you feel, but I like reading it. It just takes longer for me because like I don't have much time.
Yeah.
It's a longer book in terms of like what I understand because I actually have to.
Slow down and read it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
to comprehend it.
Yeah, because
So-
anyways, I'm not even gonna get into my grievances with that.
But yeah, no, we also like have been talking about this for a little while because there are some books that just haven't been adapted that we're like, oh my god, I would love to see this.
Yes.
And we just like want to express our views. And this week's episode will still be like normal. We'll be discussing just the book and our opinion and stuff.
Yeah.
It's not until next week we'll be doing something new, but we'll have to hear feedback from like what people think about this
Yeah.
new concept, and
Yeah. Well, also it just works good for us because like that book got me out of my reading slump. Like it was
You're
it's a good
welcome.
thank and I loved reading the annotations. Like genuinely, that was so much fun. I loved like it felt like I was reading it with you. That's what made it
Yeah.
like a lot of fun.
Yeah, I lent him my copy, and this was one of the books that I annotated when I was still productive and had time.
Yeah.
Because I have read this before. I read this January of this year, and I still think that this is one of my like top. If this is my favorite book from all of this year that I've read, and it still is after 9 months.
Right.
And so I reread it for this episode. But yeah, I lent him my copy from the first time I read it. And yeah, some of my annotations were so dumb though. Like I'd just be like,
No, it was funny. Like, 'cause a funny moment would happen, and like your annotations was literally just you, and you'd be like, "Shotty's tripping" or something. Like it's so funny.
I did make myself laugh in this book.
Yeah.
I gotta entertain myself.
And also,
If I can't make myself laugh, then what am I even doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're gonna get into this book now and our opinions. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to hear what you have to say though, because we haven't really talked
Do you
about
want Do you want me to lead?
it. Yeah, because this was your first time reading it,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
I've been like telling him to read it before even all of this. I was like,
Yeah.
this is one of my favorite books already. You got to give it a try. I think that you'll like it.
Yeah. And I
We're
did.
just not big fantasy people, so this was like a fantasy book.
Barely. Okay.
But, yeah,
So here's
we'll
my.
get into that gripe.
Yeah. So this is like to me like first off I loved it. It was a lot of fun and it was like very. I want to say peaceful. Like a lot of the time it was just peaceful.
It was calm, and there wasn't much tension, but there's
Yes.
also like a mystery going on. So.
Yes, it's like it was like a mystery, and I was just happy to be there while it slowly unraveled. It took its time, but it didn't take too long either. It kept my attention, and at first I was like very confused because like I started reading it, and then I was just like, it mentioned like, oh, he got me plastic bowls, and then like fixed the plastic on my glasses, and I was like, is the writer just lazy, or is there like plastic in this universe? Like I was so confused because they're like, oh, there's only this amount of people, but then as you go on, I'm not gonna spoil anything, it makes sense, and everything's meticulously planned. It's a joy to read. Piranesi is such a fun main character, and he's just like this very innocent, happy-go-lucky guy, and it's fun to see him piece things together and go through just the story with him.
He is one of the best written characters and just most fun characters.
Fun protagonist.
Yeah, it's one of the best that I've read in like a very long time. So it's been considered literary fiction too, and I'll start with that because it's like a lot of just the ways that he describes how he's feeling. Like it's written so flowery almost, like it's poetic. And like these are all topics and themes that people have touched on before about like, you know, solitude and just stuff on that. Like it's not really new what she's bringing up, but it's in just such a unique scenario that it's like I'm thinking of things that I've never really thought about or considered, and it's making me like reflect on my own life, which was just so like surreal.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like it was really a joy to read for me.
Yeah, definitely. I love the prose. I love the way.
I love how much he values the house.
Yes, I love his just optimism, his blind optimism, where he's just, for lack of a better way of putting it, in just a terrible, shitty situation, and he doesn't know any better, so he's just like, for the smallest things, he's just like, oh God, he's just so pumped about everything.
He's literally like a golden retriever. So like
Yeah.
if you love golden retriever energy and people, like you're gonna love him as a character. And like,
Yeah, definitely.
what else was I gonna say?
And like the only other character at first, the other, is the polar opposite. He's just not very talkative. He's very stoic, and he is basically like, he states his or Piranesi states his goals out front from the beginning, and it's his first real hint as who this character is. And it's just like basically he wants to become a god to control lesser beings. So right off the bat, you got Piranesi, who's just happy to be there and just grateful that the house is giving him the right to live. And then you have the other, this complete 180 of a character wanting to have dominion over lesser beings, like you said, and control everything.
Right. And like I will say, before we even go into spoilers and just like continue down this book is so fun to get into without any knowledge of where it's going, because it's such a unique journey to go on. So like I highly suggest, if you haven't read it yet, to like put down this, don't watch anymore, and read it like right away. Like I suggest this to everyone.
Yeah.
And it's like I went into it blind, didn't even know where it was supposed to go. I just knew it was a fantasy, and I try not to tell anything to you so you could go into it the same way. And it's such a fun journey because you just don't know what to expect. So
I love stories like that, like
Yeah.
where you genuinely have no idea where it's going, but it still grips your attention,
yeah.
and does that all the way through. Never at one point was I was like, oh, this book's dragging. Like,
Right.
and there's even points where not much is happening, but I'm cool with it. Like I'm happy to be there.
Exactly. And I love when books are written well in like a journal format.
Yes.
Like it's just such a cool writing style that not many people do right, because they take it overboard almost, and it's like too cheesy.
Yeah.
But this is such a good way, because it doesn't feel like fake or forced in any way. And it also kind of makes sense because Piranesi has like all the time in the world, so
Yeah.
it's not just like, where do they find the time to write all this down? Anyways, I do also want to say, like, even rereading it the second time, I was still discovering new things about it, and like I really, while I was reading it, I was really focusing on the kind of like, um, relate or how it relates to like a new culture forming, a new religion. Like it's such a fun thing to dive into, like how that even happens, and we really get to see like kind of what he learned to value, and this kind of higher being he imagined, like all these different things that he created himself for himself to give hope and other meaning for things he couldn't really explain. And that was just such a fun thing, and I think the author did an amazing job kind of weaving that in, and making it realistic and not overboard.
Right. And I love that, like, it almost, like, these fictional statues that she was describing, it almost sounded like appreciation for art.
Yeah, 100%. You could tell that this is a book written that admires art in general. It's about like really appreciating it, I would say.
Yeah.
Like with other cultures, even the arts in that, like
Definitely.
so much.
That's the vibe that I got. And
Yeah.
that was a joy. Should we get into our, like, star rating?
Yeah, I think so. Which I think you can already tell what mine's gonna be.
Yeah.
What's
I would
yours?
say,
Now you're gonna break it to me and be like, but there's so many flaws, and it was 1 star because
Yeah.
I can't relate at all.
I'd say, no, it's a 5.
Really?
It is. I can't really find a reason not to.
Is it comparable to your other 5-star reads this year?
Yeah,
You'd say it's up there.
I'd say so, yeah. And, I just read another book that we'll talk about eventually, and I've been talking to you about, but that's also a 5 in my eyes.
Man, I feel like you've had some pretty good books. You've had some bad ones this year, but like some
Yeah.
really good ones too.
Yeah, some awesome ones. Like, yeah, but this book really was a 5. I couldn't really, like, that's why I was like, oh man, there's got to be something that kind of, like, I didn't like or whatever. And I mean, there was, but it is not a flaw that I can take objectively. So yeah, it was a 5 out of 5. I really enjoyed it, and the way I consumed it too had a lot of the enjoyment. Just like getting the comments from you, and like it was literally like I would read the sticky note in your voice. It's hilarious.
I'm so predictable. No.
I'd get excited. I'd get to an annotation. I'm like, okay, something big's gonna happen here.
That's actually so funny. Okay, you owe me an annotated book.
Dude, I'll do it. Give me your sticky things.
They're only like $10 for a pack of like 1,500.
I would always see them. I'm like, what's the point of these?
I love them
This
so
is the point.
much. Yes. But yeah, it's a 5-star for me too. Obviously, if you couldn't tell, this is one of my favorite books still from the year. My favorite book. I think at the end of the year we're gonna really talk about that. So tune in.
Our top 5. We should. Yeah, that's right. We're gonna do like a whole.
Yeah. Ranking. Hee hee. So we'll re-look at it, see if I find a better book in the next few months. But I don't know. This is it. This is one of my favorite characters ever. One of my favorite stories, and it's a very unique story, and she's a very unique writer.
That can't be stressed enough. It's very
like
it gets called fantasy, but it's the least fantasy book I've ever read.
right.
And that, well, I haven't read many, but like maybe
it's very short. It's not a series or anything.
Yeah, they
which
won't.
Often is related to fantasy books, and it's like it really is only fantastical elements. It's you just have to read it to understand, because it seems like a fantasy at the very beginning, but things start to piece together.
It's kind of like I would compare it to Dune, but like not in the way it's written. I compare it to Dune because Dune is called, or it is labeled as a sci-fi book for people who don't like sci-fi.
Yeah. I agree. You don't have to like fantasy to really get into this book. I would say if you like more literary fiction, this is this is good.
Yeah, and even says on the cover, it's just like destined to become a work of classic fantasy. And yeah, absolutely, I could see that being read in schools.
Yeah, 100%.
And I feel like people love this.
Yeah, and it's a new way to look on even like Greek mythos. Like,
Yes.
you know, you have the retellings like what's the Song of Achilles and
Circe.
Circe, like a whole bunch of things like that's very popular now, and this is a retelling, not really a retelling, but it's kind of a relation to it. Like you have to read it because it has a lot of that weaved through it, but it's done in such a unique way that it doesn't even really feel like a retelling.
Definitely.
But you could tell she got inspiration from it, and gosh, I don't know. There's just nothing like it. Like I genuinely want to seek out more books that are like this.
Yeah, and I like the format so much too that I was like, man, I want to. I'd like to write a story where there's not so like they're working towards something the whole time, but you never are really sure. Like a mystery that's like
unreliable narrator or something.
Yeah, mystery, unreliable narrator. Yeah, like it's done in such a way that's so unique, and I thought it was so interesting. Yeah. I feel like I'm a broken record at this point, but yeah, no, definitely.
This is also technically an unreliable narrator.
It is technically.
And
so should we get into the spoilers?
Yeah, I'm excited. Okay, we're gonna get into spoilers now. So, you know, if this interests you, give it a read. Do not watch the spoilers. This is the one where like I feel like it ruins your whole experience if you like even though I know I still want to keep rereading it. It's just you have to experience not knowing. So
definitely,
yeah.
That's a big thing. So.
Don't watch if you haven't read yet. All right, what do you want to get into first? I really want you to kind of
okay, yeah. So I
say what you found interesting.
So yeah, well, like when I first started reading it, they were like talking about the plastic bowls, like I mentioned earlier, and like the plastic filament on his glasses, and at first I was like, that's just lazy writing. Like I was just like, wow.
Plastic appeared.
Yeah, we have plastic in this world. Like, okay, are we gonna have cell phones and stuff? But then, yeah,
we have the other.
No, literally, and then like you just slowly figure out that the other is getting in and out of this world, and then the other world that we know of exists. Like you slowly figure that out, but like literally the plastic bowls, and then just the other saying like, "Oh, you're forgetful," and then he starts mentioning like just the way he talks about things, and he's talking about being a scientist and stuff, and I'm just like, this guy is definitely in a different
region.
He's a different mindset, and also just he's able to go to a different universe than Piranesi. Like Piranesi is isolated.
He has like knowledge that should not be like used in this kind. If it was really a fantasy, and what it kind of makes you believe in the beginning, because you're just reading journal entries of Piranesi and he's just kind of describing things. You think, oh my god, this is a totally different universe. And then you get this one guy that's just like wearing a suit and using...
Yeah. And he's talking about notebooks and pens. That was the first time I realized. I'm like, oh, they just have like, where is he getting all these notebooks? Like, there's no trees.
Right. So you just are like, there's no real explanation for why there's just these random Earth things, but then the rest is like not comparable to our world.
No, literally, I just like at first I was just like put off by it. I'm like, oh, this is just lazy. Like this is lazy writing a detail they left out. But like you figure out that she's obviously like Susanna Clarke is just a genius when it comes to storytelling, because she's planning these little things so you kind of get it yourself a little bit.
Yes, it's like.
And then like you spend a lot of the time wondering if the other is a villain. But then, like, I got it right off the bat. I was just like, oh, this guy is a villain. Like just the way that she phrased his goals. It's like, it's like obviously he's a villain.
Right.
Yeah, like.
But I feel like we would have these moments where Piranesi was like, because then he would start talking about how grateful he is and that the house is. The house knows that he's too old to take care of himself, so the house is just giving him these things.
Yeah.
because the house doesn't want Piranesi to have to take care of him. So Piranesi is like grateful that he's just given all these more things, these nice clothes and stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's like phrased in a way that's like, man, I guess they're trying to all explain it that the house is doing it. That's kind of weird. And that it's not just the other being untrustworthy and stuff. Because Piranesi just wouldn't believe that.
Yeah, but she does a good job of putting in seeds of doubt. Because, like, when it's just like, okay, yeah, Piranesi, we've had this conversation before. You're very forgetful. And
unreliable narrator.
Yeah, and then the other's like, I might have to, like, I don't want you to be my enemy and stuff. And, like, talking about that, I was just like, oh, okay,
just
well.
manipulating.
Yeah, and, like, he's just, like, obviously he's manipulating, but it puts these seeds of doubt in. It's like, okay, well, Piranesi could be, like, a psycho once he gains, like, this knowledge. Maybe that's why he's stuck in this labyrinth.
Yeah.
But then as you keep going, like, it just affirms more and more what the seeds that she planted at the very beginning. Like, the other is an antagonist.
Yeah, and oh my god, she's just. This is such a good mystery too.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very tame mystery, I would say. Like, there's really.
Stakes are low.
Yeah, the stakes are low, and it's not meant to be a mystery. But like, I think that she did an amazing job writing it, and she doesn't. She hasn't had that many books out. I do want to read some of her other stuff. But
definitely,
like,
I'd be down.
This is one of her first few. I know it's not her first one, but yeah, she's just like amazing already. Like, this is gonna be one of the authors that I like constantly check into and pick up her books just because of her writing.
Definitely, like me with Sally Rooney now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm excited to see what more comes to and when I read her other books. Because I think she's just brilliant.
Yes, definitely.
Oh my gosh.
So, and this is, I guess what we can talk about now is like, is it adaptable? And
well, we're going over that next week.
Oh, it's gonna be a two-parter. Okay,
Yeah.
I thought we were doing it all in one.
No.
Okay, so I'm just dumb. I'll listen.
We're not gonna do that.
Yeah.
What did you think about the house as a character?
Okay, this is my one critique. That,
Okay.
like, it's not really a valid one, but I wish the magic was more so explained. But the part of the allure is that it's not. But
There really isn't any magic.
yeah, but just getting to the place.
Right.
And then, like, the place kind of is in its own way. Like, it randomly floods. It's not, like, a part of our natural world that we know. But it's, like, the way it was explained was it's just, like, okay, so the old way of magic kind of went away. But then there's these, like, little leaks and cracks in the universe. Mm-hmm. And this is one of them. But that's all we get. Like, we don't know how, like, they're like, okay, there's some way you can get there. People use rituals to get there, but they don't always use it. Mm-hmm. And they're like, you can always access it through your mind. But then, like, what does that even mean? And what is this place exactly? Like, you don't get that mystery solved, which isn't a deal breaker.
Yeah.
It's not a deal breaker by any means, but I wouldn't have minded if she expanded just a little bit, just for me to understand a little bit better.
They described it as, or one of the theories that the characters had in the book, was that it was energy being shoved into this. Like, the energy that was put into the world had to go somewhere. So, like, worshipping our planet and just, like, any kind of energy was being shoved, which is why it would have, like, tides crashing and, like, storms and stuff was, like, negative energy. And then there was also positive energy, which would be, like, a good fishing day or whatever. Like, it was all this, like, going into the world and then coming out into these different planets.
Right.
Is kind of what I meant, which is still kind of a cop-out because it's then just kind of being
it's very vague.
Yeah.
And the only thing that I didn't really understand either is, like, they're like, oh yeah, like, well, you can always get in and out through your mind, but then
I think it's supposed to be like those people are supposed to represent the ones that are really in touch with themselves and their energy, and so they can manipulate their own energy and to flow into this world.
Right.
That's what I kind of.
And that's what I kind of understood too. Like the I guess, professor or a doctor that managed to manipulate all these people to get there and like be his work slaves essentially. It's basically what the other is doing. But
Yeah.
I understood that he was like he called himself the seer. And
Yeah.
like I don't know if you know anything about Nordic mythology, but like the priests of like their culture were called seers. And I think that's just a blanket term. I'm not sure. But I think it's
that's
just a
the
blanket
only
term
thing
for
I've
like
heard.
pagan priests.
Yeah.
So yeah, like it makes sense that he's very in tune with the magic, so to speak, and just like his
In the
own
older
energy. Like he's
world.
very spiritual, so it makes sense that he would be able to do it. But then it just does not expand at all. It's very like it's like soft world building as opposed to hard world building,
Yeah, 100%.
which is generally honestly it like I love that. Like that's awesome. That's definitely
Yeah.
what I'm into more. It's like Spirited Away. It's like things are just happening. It's very passive.
Yeah.
And that's
you
in
comprehend
a
it
way.
enough to know that that's just how the world goes, but it's
Yeah.
kind of just like, I don't know how gravity works, but I know that's happened.
Yeah.
So then that's just how I explain like the traveling between this world. It's like,
Right.
I don't know how it works, but I know it can happen, so I'm good.
It's like yeah,
that's
it's like
all I need.
exactly like the magic in this is very
Vague.
similar to me as to like in Spirited Away when like you know how the lady that takes care of the spirits in the bathhouse she has like a newt, and then like this is something that all the spirits really want, but you never really get explained why or like the significance of it. You're just like this is important, okay, and then as an audience member you're like okay, and you don't necessarily need an explanation,
Yeah.
but like. I mean, I would like the little bit of it, you know?
And we both kind of said we think that this book could have been longer. Like this is one
Yes.
of the books where it's like I kind of want. I don't think it should have been a series at all. That would have ruined it.
Yep.
But like 100 pages longer, like 200 even, I would read 200 more pages.
Definitely.
And it's like what 250. Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost.
And I breezed through it. Like, you know, like,
Me too.
we both have a packed semester. So it's amazing that I got through this in like 4 days, you know?
Yeah. No, I felt that. But I've already read it before, which was easier. But I killed it. Like,
Yeah.
in my first, because I remember reading it because it wasn't that long ago, and also my annotations helped. And so I remember things happening different days, like different parts in the book. And I just like went through all of that in one sitting, and I was like, wow, I remember this taking me like, just because I had even less time then, I think when I picked this up, it took me longer to read. And so I was like, I just feel like I went through so much now.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
this one sitting. Oh, it's such a good read, and anyone can read it.
Yeah, it's not like overly flowery. It's not like Emma or like, what's the other? There's been another book where we read it. Oh, The Road. The Road isn't even
Yeah.
flowery. The Road is just
Bad.
run-on sentences of $12 words and not a fun read. But you know what I mean. It's not overly flowery. It's prose mixed in with good storytelling that like and the flowery language actually has like utility. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's all necessary in this book.
Yeah.
And even more so, like, it leaves you wanting more, because it does leave a lot of it still vague, unlike where those books tried to explain all of it almost.
Yeah.
Like, it tried to
They
make
beat-
sure that you really
yeah.
understood the point.
They
And
beat like the themes to death, whereas this touches on them
there were
and
so many themes, too,
Yeah.
I feel like.
definitely, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Which I enjoy. I enjoy being able to touch on a lot of things, even if it's not for that long. Like, none of it was left unfinished. I felt like she still concluded all of that, which is hard to do. I feel like where people start to go wrong when they start to bring in all these themes is they just don't finish them. They introduce them and leave us with nothing, while she still, like, connected it all together. It was so amazing.
Yes.
I want to talk about the peak of the action, almost, when the
Oh yeah, like the
Piranesi
climax.
starts to read the journals, and then it leads to him, the storm, and the other, and him confronting the other, and all that. Yeah.
Yes. So, yeah.
That did happen.
What specifically?
Well, how did it make you feel when you were reading about when he was reading over his past journals?
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, it's perfectly paced, and I love the fact that Piranesi, as optimistic and trusting of the other as he was, I love the fact that he hid certain information, and like was trying to go his own path, and he's very empathetic towards 16. And then, I loved the addition of the crumpled up pieces of paper of his writing that he has no idea. And then he's just reading. It's just like, I have to kill Ketterly. And it's like, before I forget what's happening. And then you slowly... And like, halfway through reading some of those, I was like, oh, okay, it's him.
Right.
And I'm like,
There's no one else.
Yeah, and like, him going insane is him literally just regaining his sanity.
Yeah.
And 16 is trying to help him. And then the doctor, who he talks to briefly, is just passive in all the sense. He's like, oh, I remember seeing you earlier. You were kind of a prick. Yeah, and he's just like, but now you're cool. And then he walks off.
Yeah,
Gives him
I'm
nothing.
never gonna come back because
and he's also,
I don't like to stay here because the amnesia, which I know you're like suffering with, and you've been here for 6 years.
And then
like,
Piranesi's just
don't
like,
care.
Piranesi's just like, okay.
And he's like, no matter how much I would love to keep you enslaved here because I really don't care about what's happening. I just hate Ketterly more.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do him dirty and report you being here to get him in trouble. No big deal.
And he's like, also...
It's not for you. Let me just clarify.
He's like, also, Ketterly never can live up to me. And then he just skedaddles.
He's the worst. He sucks so much. But it is such a quick and good representation of cult leader, like, just charm that he has, charisma and confidence.
And then Piranesi,
like, of course he had.
Yeah. And then Piranesi refers to him back as the prophet.
I know. Oh my god, that was when it cut to that chapter being like the prophet. I was like, or no, that was like one section of the book.
Yeah.
Called that, and I was like, oh my god, what are we getting into?
Yeah, I was just like, wow, everybody's so mean to Piranesi.
Mm-hmm.
And then the only nice person is the cop.
Well, yeah.
And she was so sweet to him, and that was really nice. Just like slowly, her introduction at first, because like, you know, you're like in the middle of her getting introduced, you're like, oh, like, so she's coming to get Piranesi. Like, this can't be good.
Right.
Like, this is gonna be Ketterly's agent, maybe, or like maybe the doctor's agent, or
right.
But then you slowly figure out she's trying to help him, and then. The funny part was him like seeing the writing and he goes, oh no, and just and then he writes back, he goes, I can't read your writing, it'll make me go insane, but this way is where you can catch some good fish.
He had like such a childish
Yeah.
action,
Yeah.
but like it was logical too, and what he knew, all that he knew of the world, it's like it makes sense. He was thinking in a logistical manner, so you just like love him for it, even though he's just being so what we think is dumb.
Yeah.
He doesn't know any better.
Yeah.
God. Oh, so
what was her name?
Raphael.
Raphael, that's what
I
it was.
love that name.
It's a cool
for
name.
A girl.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle right there.
I never even thought about it for a girl, but I love it.
Yeah, I think it was her last
would
name. Was it her last name?
Probably.
No.
I would name my daughter's first name Raphael.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's too much, but...
Also, side note, it was really funny when Ketterly was just like, he's just like, I gotta get a gun for 16. And then he comes back, you see him in the later chapters, he's like, this was a lot easier to get than I thought it would be.
Oh my god, I know. That's when I was like, well, we already knew at that point that he had access to the real world, but I was like, he literally doesn't care. And like, Piranesi just accepts that. I'm like, what? Yeah. How does he think that Piranesi's just gonna be like okay with it?
And the fact that Piranesi just knows what a gun is, but he doesn't understand why he knows what a gun is.
He's like, oh yeah, the house just gives it, I guess.
Yeah. He's like, pow, cool.
Oh my god, that was insane. But what else with Piranesi? So I'm trying to think. There was something else that I wanted to talk about that kind of revolved around him, like discovering the journals and um, then the other and all that.
Um, isn't it basically just the birds that they birds kind of led him to it? I want to say
Let him to.
led him to questioning things. The
Well, yeah,
birds.
the birds were like genuinely like what he read as signs.
Yeah, and they kind of were. I mean, they worked out
Yeah,
in his
it
favor.
did relate to the story.
Yeah.
Um. Yeah, I really like that edition, and all the statues were such a cool because they like you really don't have to read that much into them because they don't
Yeah.
change your story enough. But like when you really want to deep dive into it, they're so interesting to analyze.
Right.
And oh my god, she did such a good job. So they were so creative too. There are a lot of very unique ones, and I wonder where she got the ideas from this. Like if she, went to museums. Like she's just so smart. I love her writing.
I went to the V&A Museum in London, and when she was talking about the statue of the gorilla, it kind of reminded me of a statue. Or there was first off tons of art statues in that, like historical ones, which was really cool. But like there was one of a gorilla, where it was like, it's basically like this guy I think went to Africa and like he feared. Like I think it was this British guy. It was an artist. He feared how smart, like apes were.
Actually, me.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but then like his.
He's not wrong.
Yeah, but then his statue depicted like a gorilla with like a spear, like killing like a human, and it was basically like meant to represent like like the evolution, the natural evolution. This is inevitable, and that kind of came to mind.
Sure, yeah.
But maybe
that's cool.
Yeah.
Like I love being able to do that because like, and there's so many ways that you could probably interpret it, but that's such an interesting because I feel like that relates to kind of like Piranesi growing, like evolving into a new person, and he even mentioned in the end he talked about the gorilla statue again that he saw him in a dream and that's cool. I feel like you're on to something with the evolving aspect because I was around when
she could have basically just gone to that building and got a lot of inspiration there.
It's also located in London. If you guys are watching this and have no idea what this is, if you haven't read this,
that's probably where she got some inspiration. Honestly.
Yeah,
it's like,
I believe it.
Like the building's huge, bunch of halls, a lot of vestibules, statues.
I can't believe you were actually there and you didn't even tell me or invite me.
I was in the house.
Yeah.
The house is.
You were a beloved child of the house.
Yeah, the house is beautiful.
I love when he says that. Yeah, its beauty is immeasurable. Bro, the pros were so good though.
Yeah, it was. It was really awesome. I loved and like, just another note on the world. Another thing I really liked about it was just so aesthetic. It felt so peaceful. Like
it's
when
somewhere that I would actually want to go.
Yeah, it sounds like when he was just fishing. I was like, dang, that sounds like a nice time.
I know. I want to be there. I want to experience this.
Yeah.
Like.
And I love that Raphael had a love for the world too, and we'll go back there with Piranesi.
Yeah.
And like they would just hang out.
Yeah, and I do want to talk about when they finally got to talk, and Raphael was like, "You need to come home." Like.
Yeah.
I feel like it was so perfect for him to be like, "No, this is my home. I don't want to go back there," because like.
But then what drove him away was like, I don't want to be alone.
Yeah, but you would expect like him to be like, "Oh my gosh, there's so much more to life. Like I need to go back to my family. I can't believe I've been trapped here." Like you're expecting him to want to leave, to experience more, to go back with his family since he's been like kidnapped and held hostage for so long. And he's like, "No, I'm perfectly content." And like he also like needs to take care of the other because that's like another one of the house's children, even though the other literally like kidnapped and held him for hostage. Like was just not. It was a terrible person. And he's like, "I have to do this for the house," and he's still like so grateful for the house. And I just love her take on, like, it's not easy to make someone change, and you can't force someone to.
Yeah.
You can't force them to, like, become this other person. That, like, he has created his own culture and religion and made himself a completely different person. And it's like, you can't just tell him to change because he's supposed to fit into this role now. And I don't know. Like, I think about that a lot. Like, even since I first read this, I've been thinking about this book and, like, how it made me feel in that regard of, like,
Yeah.
you know, not everyone's going to. And this is, like, his normal. The way that he was, this religion, is, like, his normal. So you can't tell him, like, no, that's not how the world works. And even, like, when he does decide to ultimately stay in what we know as our world, he's, like, relating himself, like, this old him, Piranesi, as this other part of him. And he's like, Piranesi doesn't understand why we use currency. Like, what's value about that? If I need something, you should give it to me, and I give you something you need later on.
Yeah, barter system, yeah.
But he's like, I know that now the person that I'm becoming knows that that's just not how it works. And Piranesi's like, I can't stand having all this stuff. Like, I'm getting rid of it, but I know I can't just, like, get rid of all of it because I need to stay, like, I need to live somewhere and all this. Like, he's adapting, but it's very slow. It's not just like, okay, now I'm in this new world and I'm going to live a completely different life. It's realistic, and I love that.
I love, and we mentioned this beforehand, but it was so funny. It was, Piranesi was asking right after, you know, they had the whole debacle with the other, and he was asking Raphael, he's just like, so what's the other world like? She goes, well, there's a lot of people. And then he goes, oh yeah, is there like 72? And it was like the craziest number he could think of.
He literally says, I threw out this because there's no way that's feasibly possible. I just wanted to see what she would say.
Yeah.
This is just unbelievable.
And then she goes,
some absurd number.
And she goes, yeah. And he's like,
no way this could be possible. And then by the end, he's like, Raphael's the person I know and love best out of the billions of people in this world. And it's like, oh my God, he actually, like, is experiencing all these people and, like, not being alone and having to trust someone because all you know as a friend is this dude that's just using you and it's, like, actually the worst.
Yeah.
And then you think that the prophet is just some another egotistical dude that loves himself and doesn't care about anything or anyone that gets in his way. And
like, his only goals are his scientific discoveries.
And being the best. And the only reason he stopped messing with the house is because he couldn't gain anything. He realized those powers aren't real.
Yeah.
That the other is trying to look for. Valentine, whatever. What was
Ketterly.
Ketterly, yeah. Valentine's such a sick name, I'm not gonna lie.
That is dope.
But, yeah, that this other egotist still thinks that it has to be there because he deserves these powers, and it's just, they're both also the same. Yeah. And they're like, I hate the other one. It's because you hate them because they're exactly like you.
Yeah. Ketterly is just less successful. That's the only thing that he has going for him. Yeah. Or doesn't have going for him. Yeah. As far as the way that the prophet looks at it.
Have people follow him because he's a weenie. And he is lazy. He's very lazy.
He just kidnaps him.
Yeah, he made him do all of his work while, like, what's his name? Lawrence?
Yeah.
He, like, actually did make the effort and try to discover and look into all these things. Ketterly just, like, stole all of it. I was like, okay, now that I have an easy way there. That's why he couldn't, like, I just connected this, but I think that's why he had to use the ritual because he wasn't in touch with, like, his energy.
Oh, yeah.
And so, like, he just sucked. Yeah. He was just, like, the Walmart version of Lawrence.
Great value.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, you know, I was expecting, like, the students.
Students of the doctor?
Yeah, I was expecting Piranesi to be one of them. But it came as a surprise to me that he was just, like, a journalist. that was wanted to write a book.
I know, that was such a cool, like, I think that was a good way to introduce it, because you also got him being like, oh my god, this is insane.
Yeah.
Like, this Ketterly dude's still performing this ritual regularly. Like, he still believes in this stuff. That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, I need to follow this dude's lead.
Right. Yeah. He was.
Both would have been interesting, because then you get the dynamic, like the other kind of abuse where this dude was using him, and you could also get Stockholm syndrome that way, to be like, no, my professor's right. He showed me this house, so I must follow everything else he does, because clearly he's a better being or a higher being than I am.
Yeah.
Because he showed me all this stuff.
Right. And I think the only way, now I'm thinking about it a little bit more, I think the only way that Matthew Sorensen could have survived in that world is the way that it ended up happening, his amnesia. Him becoming Piranesi is the only way that he could have gone through any of it.
No, literally.
That's the only way.
And that is its own form of magic. Like, the house was affecting him, and the house did have I love it, because it's just slightly, like, sprinkling in spiritual things. And
yeah.
Also, this is the second book now that we read where the house is, like, its own being that's, like, kind of magical.
Right.
Can you believe that? And the other one was yours, so this is my turn.
Dude, I will never, ever stop talking or thinking about Hill House.
Which one's better? The book, specifically.
Oh man. I mean, they're both
Who has the better taste?
They're both so good at what they try to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like this touches on so much more, because it's almost, like, scary, too. This is genuinely, like, I have a very real fear of dementia and just that. Like, I
do
hate
too.
seeing that.
Yeah.
And
it's almost, like, I guess my mental fear would be, like, psychosis. And it's,
not knowing what's really happening.
And that Hill House definitely touches on that.
That's true.
And that is terrifying.
Yeah, but this also touches on, like, yeah.
Yeah, it does.
So
it does a little bit.
Form.
It does it a little bit. I didn't find this book scary at all, but it wasn't trying to be scary.
Right.
It was just trying, and it did it so well. But I don't know. Hill House is a special place in my heart, and in a way, it was like, I don't know. I feel like, I don't know. Maybe
Making
honestly, because I really do. I love Shirley Jackson so much. Like, her prose are so great, and horror is just like, I can't get enough of it. Yeah. And her writing, I don't know.
I guess because I find this scarier than Psychosis or,
Psychosis is the scariest thing ever.
I mean, yes. Like, actually, if I really think about that, I think that's scarier. But in terms of reading about it, like,
yeah.
I went into it expecting it to be kind of scary. Like, this, it's not scary. It's not written in a scary way. But if you really think about it, which I have done a lot of, it's, like, first of all, very upsetting. And it has a very sad undertone throughout. Even, like, the happy moments, and you're, like, very happy for Piranesi, you're still, like, he deserves so much better.
Yeah.
He's clearly getting treated like crap. But there's a lot of sad undertones, but there's very scary things happening in this book too. Like, imagine, like, you literally couldn't survive. Like, your mind would kill you if you were in a situation where you got kidnapped into this other world that no one even, like, believed in. Like, you were just gone.
You'd starve, yeah.
Yeah, like, and, like, the only way to survive is to make yourself forget that there was anything else. And so, like, thinking about that, and, like, the other guy that was trapped in there, like, he completely lost himself in any form of a person. I can't remember his name, but the guy that went in before. And
yeah.
that was, like, that's very scary.
Yeah, no, it's terrifying.
So.
It's scary that they can just nab you into that world. Like,
yes.
But, and to compare it back to Hill House is more malicious in the way it goes after the weakest member of the group and manipulates. Whereas this house, it's it's just the same for everyone. You know what I mean? There's no malicious intent. It just is.
Yeah, right.
And
The
like,
house is actually saving you by forgetting, but then it's like,
yeah,
then you don't even know that you are suffering, which is like, is that worse or better? Because you,
better.
like, it is, but then also, like, you just won't know anything truly good. I guess. I mean,
Well,
I guess you can.
ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
Definitely. In
It
this
just,
scenario,
it sucks how
100%.
much he is missing out, but I don't know. That's honestly its own theme.
Yeah.
Like, you know
Yes.
what? You can still be happy in the worst of situations. You can still
If you
find
don't
the
know
good.
any better.
Yeah, exactly.
Dang. There's a lot to pull out of this one.
I know. I think about this book so much. It's not even funny. I truly think this book has made me a better person. For myself, at least. I mean, I haven't really changed, but like, I
Right.
feel like a changed person. I feel like I understand more about myself.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it makes total sense to me. I think in a
I
way,
love books.
I mean, definitely what I pulled out of this was like, you know, I feel like a lot of protagonists, especially nowadays, and it spans through all the genres. I feel like a lot of them try to make their protagonists like, gray in a way, which I love gray characters. And like the protagonist is flawed and he's oftentimes edgy and like he's
That's
like,
a trend, especially now.
yeah. And like I love that. Don't get me wrong, but I love the fact that we have a protagonist here that all like he's so light and happy and you can do nothing but root for him because he's just a solid, good human.
Yes.
And it's a breath of fresh air,
Yes,
and it's something to strive for.
Yeah.
We could all be a little bit like Piranesi, and I think
Yes.
that would be just okay. I think everything would be a little bit better, actually.
No, actually. And it's not even like a self-help book, but I feel like I really changed, like, because there's just so much to value. So much that we overlook. And I love books that go into, like, it's just the little things in life that
Yeah.
are, like, the best. And that's like really what this book is. I just
Yeah.
appreciate it. And I appreciate Piranesi as a character. Like, oh my gosh.
I remember, I think it was PewDiePie that said this, which is wild, because he had that book club thing. And he was talking about self-help books. He's like, yeah, those are fine in their own right. But he's like, I think fiction works just as well, if not better, in that sense. I totally agree.
Yeah.
It makes it not like, it gets their point across in fiction books, not only, but it makes it fun and interesting.
Yes.
Like,
and
rather
you
than
get
like
to, carried out or
exactly,
how to
yeah.
see it actually.
Like
in
self-help
effect.
is just preachy, and
Yeah.
it's also like it always claims to have the answers, whereas the fiction, it doesn't claim to be like this is the way a lot of times, like some do.
Yeah.
But like it doesn't claim to be like this is the way. It just kind of explores the ideas and then lets you draw your own conclusions, which is
Yeah.
just the perfect way to teach.
And it makes you want to be that person because you find characters that you're like, yes, I love that. I love that trait. I want to be that.
Yeah.
It's just such better than like being like, okay, this is how you actually become this kind of person. You have to work towards it. And when you're reading it, it's just like, I think that's stupid, and you don't want to do it because
Yeah.
you find things that you just don't agree with.
Yeah, and
It's
there's
bound to happen.
well, self-help is just entirely preachy, and it's not. I'm so against them just because it's in its own way a little religion, but like in a lot of ways, I feel like it does religion worse because it's just some
I
guy.
don't
It's just
know.
some
I
guy
don't
who,
like that.
it's just some guy who like made a bunch of money, and he's just like, if you do all these steps, you'll achieve what I've achieved. A lot of times, that's what it is. It's not
I
always.
don't know. I kind of like self-help books in their own way, but they're not for everyone. It's not going to work for everyone. I think fiction is more general because everyone can find their kind of book.
Yeah, but I don't know. Self-help just has such a bad taste in my mouth. I think it's because a lot of them, I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like many religions who don't do it as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I get it. Anyway, that's our tangent. We didn't
Yeah.
find a way to relate to this to The Walking Dead. Hold on.
Oh, darn.
That's the next thing you have to cross off the bingo card that we do in every episode.
Dude, did the other ever say, "Let me tell you something"?
I think Piranesi did.
Oh yeah, he's
He
just
had
like,
a lot of things to say.
yeah, he did.
Oh my gosh.
He's like, "Mr. Kettley, let me tell you something."
I feel like it was kind of similar to The Walking Dead in the way that you think it's going to be this, like just focused on, oh, the house is going to be like mysterious and all that, and you think, oh, the zombies are the threat, but then it breaks it down in this whole other like mind mess of things.
Yeah.
That's like, okay, this is actually more serious than you thought. Just like The Walking Dead's like, yeah, it's not the zombies, it's the people that you have to worry about.
I noticed. I guess I would go on a Walking Dead tangent now, but I noticed the seasons upon a rewatch. I noticed that they had the same sort of formula as far as like Rick's group would find another group that's the enemy. Mm-hmm. The enemy, they fight them, ultimately win, but the finale usually had something to do with the herd. And then you're reminded at the end of those seasons, it's like, hey, remember the real threat.
Yeah.
We should come together.
Yeah.
It did that a lot. It even did that in the last season, which I liked it, but
It always is like, oh, but don't forget that unity is what saves us.
It's just like, why are we fighting
You're
each
not
other
wrong,
when
but-
we want to be eaten by these things?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I could see that. I'm gonna go through a new binge.
Dude, speaking of zombies, The Last of Us. These
I
next,
finished it, guys.
yeah, she finished it. Honestly, we're never gonna get to this, but if we were to like watch through the gameplay and then compare the,
That would be fun, but
yeah,
it definitely doesn't have anything to do with books.
I know,
Someone
but
make
it's
a book.
but the writing in all of them is just even
That's
like
true.
like.
But it did take a while to go through the book. I mean, the game.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean,
I've never played it.
dude, you can definitely skip through like a lot of the gameplay because like if you're watching somebody that's like not great at video games, like they'll get hung up at a part,
Yeah.
and you'll just be like skip.
Yeah.
But the gameplay so
Maybe.
cool. Anyways, The Last of Us. I cannot wait for the next season.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm excited.
I cannot wait to see your blind reaction to what's gonna happen.
Oh my god, I know. I'm so excited. But anyways, I think that's it for what we have with Piranesi.
Yeah,
It was a short book. I'll say
it was.
that, which is nice.
I had a lot to say about it, but I think we got it all out.
I know I covered, the majority of how it made me feel and
Yeah,
the themes I
this
wanted
next
to
episode's
mention.
gonna be fun.
I know, I'm excited.
It's gonna be something
you
new.
have to tune in, like and subscribe, and turn on notifications so you get reminded next week when we do that. Are you ready?
Ready,
out.
set, go.
We are out.
Goodbye.